Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Right Crowd, a virtual author expo. I am here with the beautiful array of the Fantastical Finds Volume 1 panel, and I'm so very excited to introduce you to these amazingly talented people, wonderful authors, wonderful writers, and to get into some deep questions of their minds and their writing styles and insights, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But before we get into it, I'd like to introduce myself. I am your host, Katelynn Rentería, and I am a local author from the Rio Grande Valley in Deep South Texas. And I created The Right Crowd, a virtual author panel, as a way for different authors to come, be showcased in this nice exposition, and that we could uplift each other and show each other's works, insights, writings, because, you know, with our current world situation, there's not a lot that we can be doing in terms of, you know, events and meetings, and it's limited. And I know as authors, we miss it. We miss meeting the readers and meeting the families and going to the events and seeing our author friends and celebrating our works. It's been a bit difficult, but you know, technology is a beautiful thing, and being able to come from all sorts of different places. You're going to hear where we're all tuning in from, which is really exciting. The ability to, even though we're apart, even though we might be staying home and staying safe, you know, distant, we can still come together. We can still celebrate. We can still showcase our writings to a whole array of audiences. And it's really fun. And this is one of the debut panels of this series. This is the very first day that we're doing this. The Right Crowd will be every Saturday and Sunday in October at 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. So I'm very excited to kick off with this amazing panel. This is the first Saturday that we're doing this. We have really talented people here. And among the people listed, I do want to give an honorable mention to Cody Wagner, author of The Gay Teen's Guide to Defeating a Siren series. Hopefully he will join us in a moment. He is scheduled to be here. He's on the flyer. He's super excited, but he's experiencing technical difficulties right now, and he's going to be tuning in from Phoenix, Arizona. So I really, really hope that he'll be able to hop on and share his story. And Cody, if you're watching, we're waiting for you. Please come as soon as you can if you're able to. So very quickly, the order that's on screen, beginning with Ms. Gomez, and then Mr. Laurel, and then Nely Cab. I would love it for you all to give a brief introduction. Hi, my name is this. I am the author of this, to let our audience know who you are, what you write, and audience members, for you watching, I see some interaction from Facebook and YouTube. Go ahead and drop a comment, say hi. And the cool thing about this is that this is a panel. Feel free to ask questions, gain insight if you want to say something, if you want to ask something. The authors are more than happy to answer your questions, have conversations. It'll be a lot of fun. So beginning with introductions, we have DC Gomez.
Hi, Ms. Katelynn. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited to be part of this amazing panel. So thank you so much for having me. I'm DC. I'm actually coming from Texarkana in East Texas. So I do urban fantasy primarily. It's kind of my main genre that I enjoy, but I do a little bit of everything. I do everything from children's books. I've done devotionals. I do contemporary fiction. So I'm a little trade of everything, probably. So in terms of what I enjoy, definitely some fantasy.
Very nice, very nice. And Gume, a little showcase of yourself.
My name is Gume. I'm currently in San Antonio, Texas. I write young adult books. I have Blind Injustice, which is a story about racial oppression, Captive in Truth, which is a story about oppression in the name of religion, and I have Hunting for Stars, which is another young adult fantasy as well. I have a fourth one for anybody who's into poetry. It's a chapbook called Lovers in Hindsight. And so, yeah, that's what I do.
Very nice. And We have another member. Yes. Thank you for joining, Cody. So excited. And now I can add one of my toys. Yes. We can have
It works.
everything. It works. Everything nice and set. So yes. Continuing, Cody, we are doing brief introductions of ourselves. So next up on the list is Nely Cab. Tell us about yourself, what you write.
So my name is Nely Cab. I am.
You're good. I think there's a little bit of a lag, but go ahead.
Well, yes, I saw that. Everybody froze. So my name is Nely Cab. I'm from South Texas, from Brownsville. I write YA fantasy. My books are 4 in the series. And what else can I tell you? I love fantasy as a whole. Anything vampires. I'm a huge Twilight fan. I'm going to say that already. And I just like all types of fantasy, actually. Anything.
Very nice. And our final panelist, Mr. Cody Wagner, if you'd like to give a brief say hi of yourself and what you have written.
Hello. Sorry I'm late. I'm Cody Wagner, and I am the author of the LGBTQ series, The Gay Teen's Guide to Defeating a Siren. Here are the book covers. Woo! And I live in Phoenix, Arizona, but I am actually originally a Texan. Is that all?
Oh, Texas.
Is that brief enough?
No, you're good. You're good. This was just a really brief introduction. As people join into the Facebook Live, you could give a little introduction of yourself. We already have comments coming in. I have Jackie Smith on YouTube saying, "Hi, friends." Hi, Jackie, with some hearts.
Hi, Jackie.
Cody, when you joined, she said KJ and I literally just screamed saying hello.
But it was more like in terror, like,
no. And for Nely Cab, Jackie Smith says Twilight. Yes. So we're already making connections with the people watching. That's really, really awesome. So we have gained a few more viewers. So this next round of introductions will be a little bit more in depth and in detail. So in the order on screen, from DC to Nely to Cody to Gume, if you guys would like to talk about your books, and then a little bit more in depth, if you would like, in terms of what they're about, maybe any distinguishments that they've earned. I know the first introduction was a little bit very brief, but if you guys want to go more in detail and talk about it, now is the time. So starting with DC Gomez, tell us about your books.
So the book we're featuring today is Judgment Day. So I kind of have an ongoing joke with this book because it came out literally the 29th of March, right when COVID hit, and the book is called Judgment Day. So marketing this book became an ongoing interesting situation and struggle because everything from the world's falling apart to killer bees is in this book while we had all this craziness happening. So it is the 5th book in the series of the Intern Diaries. It is based on the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and it takes place in Texarkana. So it is, if you like quirky, if you like fun, if you like all sorts of actions, I get to blow up a whole bunch of buildings in town. So it is an urban fantasy. Yes, everybody just kind of laughs at me. It's like, is there anything left in Texarkana you haven't blown up? I'm like, no, I think we covered the whole thing. We covered about the 4 states region. So yes, I have blown the entire area up. I have an ongoing joke with everybody that there are certain buildings that hate me because every time I go visit, they're like, are we going to be in your books this time? I'm like, maybe, just maybe a little feature here and there. So it is ongoing, it is action, it's a lot of fun. I usually say it's very YA in terms of middle schools. I actually have 8th graders who have read it all the way up to adults. So it gives you a pretty wide range in terms of everything. I'll introduce you to tons of magic. From the start of, you have no idea what it is, to you said vampires, Nely, we got some crazy vampires, I got some angels and demons. The devil has a club, so we put it that way. So everything you can think about is all in there. So it's a lot of fun.
Very nice. Very exciting, too. So Nely, if you want to go a bit more in depth on your book series.
So my book series is actually a little twist on Greek mythology. So it's actually the basis of it is kind of like a future generation of the original Greek gods. And it starts off with a girl that lives in Los Fresnos, and she has to live in Los Fresnos because that's where I graduated from. So, Los Fresnos, Texas, by the way, since I'm from Texas. And it's just a small town. And I thought a lot of our books that we read that are mainstream, they're all set in like big cities. Because I guess, you can relate if you've ever been to a big city and you can imagine it. But this one takes place in a small town. And I thought that it made it a lot more interesting, I guess, so that you could, because a lot of people live in big cities and they don't know what it's like to live in a small town. So this girl is just a plain Jane, and then she comes across some weird monster thing in her dreams, and she tells him, to get out of my dreams or whatever, you're not letting me sleep. And he says, no, I'm real. And then he proves it to her, and that's where her journey begins. So basically, she gets entangled with these gods, and it turns out that she's not very human herself, but she's a little more than a human and a little less than a human, and that's what the entire series is about.
Very
her
nice.
Struggles with accepting.
Awesome. And we do have some comments coming in about that. I have a YouTube comment from Jude Frazee. I hope I'm saying that properly, saying, I love Greek myths.
Yes.
And he had to drive through Los Fresnos and got super excited because it reminded me of Creatura. That's really cool. That's really cool. And and we also have a comment from local Rio Grande Valley author Patty York Raymond saying, Yahoo! Looking forward to hearing from you all. Hi, Patty. Thank you for joining. And so next up on the list to introduce, tell us more about your books is Mr. Cody Wagner.
Hello. Real quick, Jackie said in the comments, Cody, why are you bouncing? I don't use a chair as my desk chair because I have really bad posture. So I actually have a workout ball, and that's my desk chair all the time. And whenever I'm like excited, I literally sit there and I bounce on it. And so I will try to stop that. If I do, just want to stop if it's like jarring. And that is what my books are about. No. So The Gay Teen's Guide to Defeating a Siren, again, it's a trilogy. Wait, how are my cameras working? Oh, there we go. It's about a 14-year-old boy, Blaze Trails, and he accidentally comes out to his homophobic parents, and they freak out and they drag him off to this horrible Pray Away the Gay boarding school, a full-time boarding school. But whenever the parents leave, the school reveals it's actually a secret refuge for gay teens, and he gets to go to a secret gay high school. And there's also, it's an urban fantasy as well, and there's a kind of mythological element in that there is some kind of creature basically attacking the school. And so Blaze also has to navigate friends, bullies, being able to come out, and also something that's happening that he doesn't understand. And I think you have a question later that goes into that a little bit more, so I'm going to stop there. The third book will be out this year. My editor has it. I realized that I don't have a printout or anything of the cover, so I drew it real quick just now. So this is what the book 3 cover will look like.
I love it.
And just know that that's like 100% it. And that is me.
Wonderful, wonderful.
That's a bestseller right there.
100%. Right off the bat. Jackie Smith says she can't wait for the third book. Neither can I. If that's the cover art, I'm crazy excited. This is awesome. And so our final introduction before we go into the Q&A and discussions will be from Mr. Gume Laurel. Go ahead and tell us about your books.
So I have a few different books. My first one, it's called Blind Injustice. It's a sci-fi young adult book. It's set up as way in the future once the world's end is done, and there's pretty much only people living on a space colony called Justice. And it basically, the story is about the structure of their system, like of their how racism plays into that structure. The other one is Captive in Truth, which I love. These an artist down in the valley. She actually created all my covers. This one is Captive in Truth. It's about this guy who has his whole life he's been in a small excluded community, like it's gated. They don't have any contact with the outside world, and it follows that structure of everybody adhering to their extreme religious laws, and him kind of realizing as he gets older the quality of life that they're living in that system. and once he has that knowledge, what he's going to do with it. The next one is Honey for Stars. This is probably my favorite cover. Let's see that one. So this one, it's about a community of Sirenas, mermaids at the bottom of the sea. It's an urban fantasy. So it's imagine like the world like you know it now. Like she goes to an underfunded public school in the inner city, and so she but she has a sister who was supposed to have died before she was born. Every year during Dia de los Muertos, they honor her with and so they never sense that her spirit come to visit her family. So she goes on a quest to see if her sister is in fact alive somewhere in the region where she went missing and was pronounced dead. And then the fourth one is also by the cover was also done by an artist in the Valley who's from Brownsville, Lovers in Hindsight. It's a poetry chapbook, so a collection of poetry going through the storyline of being single, then meeting somebody, that the dating phase, the figuring out what it is phase, it being something, then like its eventual end because everything is essentially impermanent. And then like the lessons that you learn through that whole process of experiencing life with another person or other people.
Very nice. Wonderful, wonderful, beautiful. And I know Jackie Smith says she wants to read the mermaid one. She's already interested and we're already excited and making connections. And Natividad Carrillo, which is a local author here from the Rio Grande Valley, says, wow, hands down, another great panel. Thank you for joining, Nati. Thank you for commenting. And Raul Martinez Jr. says, hi again, Katelynn, Cody, and Gume. Hi, good to see you. Good to meet you, DC Gomez. Nelly, I'm still crazy over the new generation Greek pantheon in your novels. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Raul.
Yes, thank you so much for joining, Raul. Thank you for everyone tuning in on Facebook. We have a good following right now. And again, we are about to jump into the panel questions. So I have a few questions that I'm going to be asking our panelists. But for all of you viewers out there in Facebook land and YouTube, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, you want to say something, go ahead and comment and I can bring them up. The authors can answer and we'll just have a lot of fun with these cool conversations. So the first question I would like to ask, I know we covered it a little bit in the beginning, but one by one, really fast, I'd just like you all to shout out, where are you tuning in from? Let the audience know how vast our little array that we have here is. So starting with DC, where are you tuning in from?
I'm actually East Texas, right on the border of Arkansas. So I'm in Texarkana.
Very nice. And Nely Cab, where are you tuning in from?
I am at the border by the sea. I'm in Brownsville, Texas. It's the southernmost tip of Texas, bordering Mexico. So we have a great tacos.
We do. I'm gonna use that. That was beautiful. I'm at the border by the sea. That was really nice. So we have a Brownsville, Texas. And Cody, where are you tuning in from?
Hi, Nelly. I like how it took you a second. Like I'm from. I don't know. So I'm actually.
I was gonna say because people ask me where are you from, Los Fresnos. That's but I'm not there yet. Again, because I used to. Right now I'm in Brownsville. I'm going back to Los Fresnos. So.
That makes sense. Okay, so I'm a native Texan, but now I live in. No, I'm just kidding. I live in Phoenix right now, Phoenix, Arizona. So that's where I'm at. And as they knew, our electricity went out. Our AC is still out. It's not going to get fixed for another week. This is the temperature here right now. Woo!
Be careful.
Oh my God.
And that's where I'm from.
Oh my God. Be careful. Be safe. We're sending positive vibes and good cooling thoughts to you and over in Phoenix.
That's not going to help you now.
Oh, no. And Gume, where are you tuning in from?
I'm in San Antonio, Texas right now. I am originally 12, 13 years ago from the Valley, from Weslaco, Texas.
Very nice. And we have a couple comments. Jude says, woo, more Texans. Represent. We have a YouTube comment saying tacos, which yes. And author Ana A. Cavazos, also here from the Rio Grande Valley, says, hashtag grow your reading list. Absolutely. And Patty York Raymond says, I envision a lot of books for Christmas presents. That is true. get the plug. All of these books would be wonderful as Christmas gifts to give to family, friends. They all are super amazing. If you notice, there's a recurring theme here of fantastical finds. There's fantasy, there's magic, there's all these little extra elements. So if you've got some readers that would love that, then this panel is perfect for you. And Anna also says, hello all, glad to get to know you. And Jackie Smith says she downloaded Creatura. So this is fun. We've already got a good kickoff. So the first question I have for you all is, what made you sit down and just write those first words of your books? Like, did you know I'm going to write a book and that's what you set out to do until its completion? Or did it kind of manifest along the way? It wasn't really in your plans, but here we are. And now it's a thing that you can share and give to all sorts of readers and people. And anyone can answer this question. You can just jump in and give your input, and we can have other people speak if they would like. But before, Jackie Smith also said, also downloaded Hunting for Stars. There we go. We've got good interaction going on. So yes, what made you all begin writing? Start. Okay.
I'll jump in. I want to say this was one of my bucket lists. I went to school for filmmaking. So I said, I'm always going to write a novel. And I would like to tell you that it's just happened overnight. Now it took about 15 to 17 years for me to finally, what I say, call back home. But it was finally one of those things. I ran out of excuses. I knew that I wanted to do it. I know my heart was in writing and storytelling. And I just didn't have any more reasons not to do it. So it was just one of those things. I'm like, sit down, do it, because you just commit to yourself. And that's kind of how it happened.
Very nice. Anyone else?
Okay. Do you have how long do you have? An hour? Okay. I think I can cover everything. So what happened? When I was young, I used to love writing. And I've always loved stories, storytelling, movies, anything, right? So then adulthood happened, and I stopped reading, and I had to work, and it was just, I had to live my life. But then one day, my husband says, you don't have to work anymore. And I was like, thank you. So I went home, and I was it was great. Except, wait, I got really bored because I had never not worked. So I redid my house. I redecorated all the bedrooms, and when I was finished, I was like, what am I going to do now? I'm sorry about that. There's somebody with a very loud muffler. So I was like, maybe I'll start reading again. I used to love reading. I love reading. So I started reading again. Well, one day, my sister says, hey, let's watch this movie called Twilight. It was my downfall because I couldn't stop watching. I was like, wow, that is such a cool premise. So then I read the books, and I didn't feed people. And I thought, I read Stephanie Meyer's story, and she had gone to school for English or whatever, but she was a stay-at-home mom. And I thought, well, if she can do it, and I love stories, why not? So I started writing. But see, I was gonna write a short story. And what happened was that I didn't finish. I couldn't finish it. It just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And I was like, okay, this is not a short story anymore. And that's how the first book started. And then I published it. That was it.
Very nice.
So it was just something that happened.
But it was a process. It was an evolution, which is really cool. Like a lot of times, we have no idea what's going to come of something, and then one thing leads to another. Now here you are with a whole entire series of it. Creatura is like 3 parts with a prelude. That's really cool. That's really awesome. And I did want to ask. Oh yes.
But I never thought that was going to happen. I never thought I was going to write a book. I feel like it was just purely accident. But I'm one of those people that's like, maybe I'm going to try this. And then I get very excited over it until I finish. Even if it takes 5 years.
I was going to go next, but I think you're about to say something, Katelynn.
Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to interrupt. Oh,
No,
okay.
this is about you.
No, thanks. So my actually answer is two parts about writing, and specifically this book is that I grew up in a little town by Amarillo, Texas. And so if you don't know where that's at, like very North Texas up in the Panhandle, and you can imagine that it was not the most gay-friendly place in the universe. And it was one of these things where in Pampa, you might think of like this outward homophobia where there's protests going on and signs and everything. But it was kind of the opposite, where being gay there was so taboo, it wasn't even discussed at all. You didn't talk about it. Gay did not exist in Pampa, Texas, because they saw it as evil or something that you didn't want. So they just pretended it didn't exist. And so you can imagine that it was a very lonely childhood for me, because you really grow up thinking you're the only person who's gay that in the whole world, because it's so denied. And so I always knew that on one hand, I would write a book for young 14-year-old me to basically say, you know, here, you're not alone. This is something for you. And so that was kind of one of my goals. But then whenever I got started, that leads to the second point. It was, I didn't know what to write about. And at first I was going to do one of those Diary of a Wimpy Kid thingies. And I think Katelynn knows this because I talked about it a little bit. But I sat down and I wrote, "Dear Diary, I'm gay." And then that was the end of the book. That was all I could come up with. But then one day, me and my little sister were out chatting over margaritas maybe, and we were just talking about random stuff. And we were talking for some reason about Greek mythology. And remember how the sirens, you know, basically would control with their voice the men on the ships to crash into the rocks. And I randomly was like, do you think if any of those guys were gay that they would be immune to the siren? And that was what spawned the idea for the novel, because basically it was about how could being gay somehow be turned into where it's almost a superpower. And that's where that idea came about.
Very nice.
I like
Very nice. That leads into the next question as well, of just what message are you all trying to portray through your writing and through your books? Like what is it that you want the readers to take away when they read? Is it an adventure? Is there a message? Are you connecting like on a much deeper level? What are you trying to get out to the reader through your works? If anyone wants to take that question.
I think I'll jump in since I'm right next to you. Why not? So for a lot of my brand, and I kind of finally realized that I have a very specific brand, like all of my books, you're always going to find a sense of family, whether they're real family, whether they're going somewhere to create a family. It is that connection of not being alone. So that, Cody, that question of, am I the only person, is them finding that family. So a lot of my books will have that theme across the board, is you have to create your tribe if your tribe wasn't given to you. So whichever DC book you pick up, there is that undercurrent of where do I belong? What are the people in my life? And how do I fit into these people? So.
Very nice.
Mine actually is also based on that. There's a lot of family unity undertone there. And also the second thing is to be able to accept yourself and to not be afraid of who you are. So.
Anyone else?
Gume, do you want to go?
Yeah, I'd say for mine deal with a lot of self-evaluation. So for example, like even when they're dealing with one focuses on racism, one on the oppression in the name of religion, like with those aspects, not just seeing those problems, but seeing how we ourselves, like me, myself as the writer, somebody as themselves as the reader, is not just like maybe being a victim to it, but also contributing to it. So more like a lot of self-evaluation and realizing like I'm not just a victim, how am I also a perpetrator? So, and just like in that growth, because that young adult essentially is a coming of age, a growth and learning more about yourself. And so like manifesting it through that way.
Very nice. And I know I had the absolute pleasure, and it was really, really, really amazing when you went live on Instagram doing like a poetry reading with one of your other friends. That was so amazing. And I think it was really awesome just, putting it out there, first of all, and like having people listen. And it was like a mini poetry reading. And I was working on homework and I was like, it's like I'm in an open mic. Like, it's really cool, like listening to you and just like the messages that you had in those like poems. I know a lot of the comments were really too, that it really does touch and it really does have something to portray. And like I identified with some of the stuff that you were saying, and I know like it resonated, and like it's really amazing that you have these themes that can be difficult to talk about. And, not sometimes people don't want to tap into it, but you're using your platform in a way that's really beneficial. And you get to people and you have people make those connections, which is really awesome.
Thanks.
And I have Mr. Rey Hope, who was on an earlier panel, say family. What a wonderful word, which is absolutely, absolutely true. And I do always say, like, my author family. It's because, like, we're friends and we have this thing connecting us and making, we're here to support each other. We're here to promote each other. And I'm super, super glad that you all could be here sharing your stories. And I did want to ask, who or what were some inspirations to your writing career? Either other authors or family members or friends or loved ones or figures. Who did you draw inspiration from or gained support from that prompted this whole writing experience to begin?
I'll go first. So the first person that told me, you should write was my sister. She was 17 years old at the time. So the 16-year age gap between us. And she was the very first person that I got that support from. And I think it was because I tricked her and I made the main character look a lot like her. so that she would keep reading and give me more feedback. She was 17. I mean, she was in high school. She didn't care. She loved to read, still does. She went on to become a teacher, which is great. So because now I'm just like, check this for me. So she was a big part of that. And then, well, I already told you, Stephanie Meyer was great. I also read, like, as far as authors, like, I love William Shakespeare. I know that's a little cliche, but I love him. I love, like, the love stories and the triangles and, the star-crossed lovers. I love Jane Austen and what is her name? Tahedemaki? Her, I can't remember. The I series. I'm really bad with names, but I love her. And there's another one that a lot of mythology authors. And as a kid, I can't remember their names, but my English teachers, like, anytime they got into, like, a mythology stuff or, like, that they made us learn the stories and understand the plots and everything, like, I really was grateful for that because it made me understand and actually know how to read and get the idea of whatever the author was getting across. So those are my big inspirations. And you, because you're so young when you write. And I was like, wow, you can do it too.
Yeah.
I'm just going to try harder. I tried and I never finished anything.
When I did my first event with Katelynn and I introduced her and she's like, yeah, I'm 7 years old. I was just like, oh my God, you're an author. Like, that is unbelievable.
7?
Y'all are sweet.
Mine is kind of twofold, I guess, like my previous answer. One, of all people, John Irving, the author, is someone who really got me. He had this book, The World According to Garp, that I read, and in it, and it's been years since I read it, so if I misparaphrase this and I am completely wrong, forgive me, but there was a character in the book. So Garp is basically an author, and he meets this woman who's also an author, and she's about the most gifted writer he's ever met, and is going through her stuff, I guess, like wondering why she's not really published, and everything in her drawers was all half finished. And when he kind of made this thing like, well, like, she's so great, but nothing is ever finished. And it wasn't supposed to be this big, like, oh, this is a big lesson. It was just a part of the story, then it moves on. But it's so stuck with me because at the time I had a little screenplay I was working on and this I was working on. And that really drove it in. Like, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you don't at least finish something, no one's ever going to know. And I'm not saying I'm good, but at least put it out there to, just to get it out. And that really is what makes me finish work today, is I think about her, which is really, like, it's crazy how that one little thing could have such an influence. But then secondly, for LGBT fiction, there was a fantasy series. I got, like, into a big fantasy phase and like after college. And there was a series, and it's like Magic's Pawn, Magic's Price, Magic's Promise, and they're actually pretty big. But the protagonist in it was gay, and I had never read a gay book. I didn't even know when I read it. And y'all, I ugly cried whenever I was reading these books. And my boyfriend at the time, like, he was asleep next to me on the couch, and I'm reading, and I was so embarrassed that my shoulders were shaking, but I was trying not to wake him up because I didn't want him to see me just like sobbing over this book. And I was like, and that to me was it just kind of showed you when you read characters who you can really relate to, that it kind of it's just that much more powerful.
I love it. I love it. Gume and DC, do you have an answer for this?
I do. I actually have 3. I have probably the most influential for me is Juan Bush. He was a politician, a writer, a huge figure in Dominican Republic's history and culture. But one of the things that he did that truly changed the way I saw writing and reading is his concept was simple. You have to take complicated idea and bring it down to the people. Whatever the public you're doing, it has to be at a common language. It has to be a common level. You can't be patronizing. You have to create stories that people can relate and can connect. And I grew up in a very political house when I was back with my family. So his influence, and like, he's truly probably my dad's role model, huge, the core. So Juan Bush became huge. When I transitioned as an adult, I am in love with Kim Harrison and her Hollow series. So she started my crazy urban fantasy obsession. And then, believe it or not, I'm crazy about Charlene Harris, because she's probably the first writer that I picked up a book that made small town not doing anything seem really exciting. Because if you really pay attention to her series, everything's really small. Nothing really happens, but you have all this action. So I was infatuated with making books about some small towns. Like, I grew up in Massachusetts. I went to school in New York City. So every big city you can imagine. But the whole idea of something small and somebody sunbathing seemed so exciting that I was just crazy about.
Awesome. Awesome.
Katelynn, is that your bunny?
Yes, my curtains are moving. That's my pet rabbit. I'm so sorry.
You're haunted.
I'm haunted. Yeah, no, yeah. Never mind. It's the fantasy. It's haunted. We got mystical stuff going on. Gume, did you have an answer for this one?
I'd say, like, as a kid, because I've always pretty much, like, my whole life, I've always been writing and telling stories. And, like, as a kid, something like now looking at as an adult, like in like elementary school, or starting in elementary school, is like the people that like really pushed me were like my teachers. And it just like really taught me the value of having somebody that's older than you encouraging you, like with something as simple as like, hey, this is a good story, or hey, you should keep writing. And so like I feel like that really kept me going. And then like once I was, now is into adult, like really authors, I really like A.S. King. She's a really good young adult author. And then it's funny because I'm like really into children's authors now. I'm like really valuing children's books. I don't write children's stories. I've tried and I like am not good at it. They're too dark for children. So that's not what I'm gonna do. That's not my strong point. But yeah, so I think right now, like for young adult, A.S. King has been a really influential author. Like her voice, I think, reads really well, and it's very relatable, and it's unique. So.
Very nice. Very nice. We have a couple comments coming in. Patty York Raymond says, great messages for the readers. Connect with us all. One book or novel at a time on YouTube, which is the wonderful, amazing Rosario Ozuna. She's a librarian here in the Rio Grande Valley in La Gruya. Says, so happy to meet all of you and so excited to meet DC Gomez. She just ordered the first 3 books of the Intern Diaries series.
I do hope you enjoy them, madam. Thank you.
And author Ana Cavasso says, author family, yes. And Rey Hope says, being gay is a superpower. This makes my brain pregnant with ideas. Imagine having a stutter is a superpower, or having any unique characteristic is a superpower. What a wonderful world we could all enjoy. So I
love the word pregnant there, because that says so much. Like, it's actually a great descriptive word for that.
So see, we've got connections going. We're making stuff happen. And for those of you on Facebook and YouTube, if you have questions, go ahead and drop them into the comments. And we're going to move on. And I wanted to ask you all, because I'm interested in seeing, I know I've had my own hiccups or progressions with this, but how has our, current situation in the world impacted like your writing career? Like, was this like your time and you thrived and you've been writing like the most possible, or have you been focusing on marketing, or has it been like, ooh, or, you know, there's all sorts of different ways this question could go, but how has, you know, being on lockdown and distancing and everything impacted your writing career?
Well, for me, it was a little different. I can jump in. I realized very early on that this became a lot more hectic than I imagined. So I switched gears. I started doing a Facebook Live series. I started a podcast where I interview authors. So by the way, I'm going to hit you guys up because I really want you guys to, I want to interview you guys one-on-one. I want to know more about you guys. So just in case you see some crazy message, don't panic. It's just me. But yeah, so in terms of writing, I honestly just started writing when the weather cooled off, primarily because I have 2 submissions that are due, like now. But in terms of, just due. Deadlines will tend to motivate people. But in terms of the pandemic, I think the tension, I'm very much an empath. So the tension, the chaos, the so much turmoil really put a damper on what I wanted to write. Primarily, I write really happy, quirky, exciting things, and it just didn't feel like it. It just didn't something that I could connect. So I just switched gears. I started doing a podcast. I started doing Facebook Live. I did lots of marketing. I started doing all that business stuff and just let the writing just kind of percolate in the back.
Very nice. So like taking new avenues and still growing on the writing and author world, but still like being productive. That's really, really awesome. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd say the same to that, because I think it's opened a lot more doors for those of us in the arts. Like now everybody's stuck at home, so they have nothing better to do than watch us live on Facebook. Like, at least for me, that's like been my experience. When you're stuck here, we're all gonna drink together and listen and talk about poetry, like on Instagram. And so it's opened a lot of doors. For me personally, like my life hasn't changed. I already work from home. I don't ever go anywhere. So it's basically living life, just wear a mask at HB. That's the only difference. But yeah, how it was mentioned earlier, it was like, yeah, I think it has opened a lot more avenues for us to be able to share our work and market to the public.
Yeah. I was about to say the same thing, where I literally had no answer because my life has not changed at all. It feels like the same, and I'm like, my life is sad. But that's just really the point about changing avenues, because that's one thing is that I think Katelynn, you mentioned it, where I have these boxes of books here that were for events in 2020, and there's no events. And so what do you do with all of this? And so you have to start thinking outside the box. And I had started reaching out to Bookstagram people on Instagram, you know, people who have book accounts, and that's what they post. And just, I'm like, I'll send you books. Like here's, I have a bunch just sitting here rotting in my closet and they're sad. So here, like, just take it.
Very nice. Very nice. And I do have questions incoming from the audience. So I have a YouTube comment that says, what are you currently reading? And do you try to stay away from the genre that you write? That's an interesting question. So what are you guys currently reading? Do you try to stay away from your topic and genre?
I normally read my... Okay, Nely, go.
I'm actually, no, I just keep reading fantasy. I'll start something else and I'll be like, man, it's so depressing. I will do that to myself. And I'll be like, it was a great book, but why would I do that to myself? So right now I am reading a fantasy book from one of my author friends that has just put out like a serial, like a book in section, several books in sections. It's about witches and vampires and all these fantastical creatures. So yeah, I love the other, like the romance and stuff, but then I always tend to go back to fantasy.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Nice.
I think like to that question about reading in your genre, and this is my opinion here, but I think you kind of have to read in your genre a lot, because you're always like trying to grow as an author and become better. And how you do that, I think, is reading, and then reading in your genre. And for me, I actually, even though my books are urban fantasy, for me, characters are everything, because I think a lot of us go through similar situations in life, but it's how we handle them as people that's what make our stories unique. And so characters are really important. So I actually read a lot of contemporary YA, and I'm actually reading right now. I've got it right on my Kindle here. I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter. It's my second time reading it. She was at the event that we did last year, and she was so cool. And the book, as far as like character development, is just, God, it's so good. It's so powerful, and like I use that as inspiration.
Very nice.
So I'm actually reading something completely outside of my genre, which is very rare. Like I love a lot of works. I love fantasy. I do cozy mystery. That's pretty much what I enjoy, and I also write it. I got introduced to the reverse harem romance genre that I, first of all, had no idea what it was. So I went to a mostly romance convention and I met some of the most amazing authors. So they're like, hey, you should read this. Somebody should have put some disclaimers because I realized I'm a little prude because like some of the scenes were like, whoa, is anybody around? Is anybody looking at me? Like I'm blushing and I'm in my house. I was like, can't go in public with this book. But
Can I
single-handedly,
stop you for just a second? I'm
yes.
sorry to interrupt. Can you explain to us what the harem, what you're talking about, so that the
Yes.
people who are watching and don't know will understand?
So I actually got an introduction to it because I had to ask the same question. So reverse harem is actually a subgenre of fantasy, of romance. And you can do it in romance fantasy or you can do it in the real world. I'm doing the fantasy, which is a little easier. It is literally having a harem. So it's usually a female is your main character. And she has either a guard or she has suitors. And it's multiple, 3 to 5, 3 to 8, depending how intense your harem can be. All in love with her. You know, they might share each other, but the whole entire purpose is this female character. Which, by the way, yes, trust me, if you ever read this book, you're like, ooh, okay. So yes, I'm the person going around. It's like, is anybody looking at me? So, but they're interesting, and it's a whole different genre that I had no idea about. Because it's one of those popular things that are coming up. And if you ever heard people says you should write to market, this is the market that is hot. After reading this, like, yeah, this is not me. I can't write to this market. I would never do it any justice. But the character development are so much fun. I'm reading the Sleeping Court series, and they have like the girls that I adore them. They write a book a month. So they literally are putting out 12 books a year. These series are getting amazingly interesting. So I know you have that look. That's how I feel. But it's a whole different genre that I've never explored. I was like, okay.
Very nice. And Gume, what about you?
Right now, normally I'm the kind of person that can only read one book at a time and I have to like just focus on it and knock it out right away. I've been juggling between 3 different books for the past couple weeks. I'm reading an Edgar Tilley book, A New Earth. I'm reading a graphic novel, a YA graphic novel. It's called Flamer. And I'm reading this third one. It's a kid's book, The Little Prince. I don't know if y'all are, which is crazy now reading it like as a 30-something-year-old, like, because I'm actually reading that one very slowly, like chapter by chapter. Like, oh damn, like this is like, it's crazy. Like it just, the way you can apply it to your life after, a couple decades of just like adulthood, it hits different. And so it's interesting to see from a point of view now versus when I was like a teenager versus when I was in my 20s now, like in like my mid 30s.
You're in your mid 30s?
Yes, I'm 34. I'm about to be 34.
Oh, go away. You were kicked off this chat.
I thought you're like 24.
No, I do not feel 24 either. My body, my neck and back do not feel 24.
Oh my gosh.
I won't tell you how old I am.
Same.
I understand. I felt like I was 75 since I was like 15 years old.
Oh no.
So.
I have quite a few comments coming in, and a lot of them are questions, which is really, really exciting. But first and foremost, author Ana Cavasso says, #authors are my rock stars. I absolutely love that. And for Cody Wagner from Erica Van Tankeren, I hope I said that correctly. Where is my book?
I told
Cody,
she lives
you
in the
have a
Netherlands.
box of them.
I know. I have a box for you. She lives in the Netherlands, and I told her like a year and a half ago that book 3 was almost done. And yeah, so I'm a big liar. I'm sorry.
But you have a cover. You have a cover now.
Yeah, you have the cover. You
Yeah,
showed
got
it. It's great.
See, there's your book. Hello.
It's
I
coming.
love it. I love it. I love it. And from Jude, this might be my favorite question ever. From Jude over on YouTube, they say, very important question from my blog, Platypire Reviews. Do you prefer oatmeal raisin or chocolate chip cookies?
Okay, I'm gonna say it. She is obsessed with this question. She's one of my friends. She used to be my assistant. There is no right answer to this, dude. We love all cookies except peanut butter.
Except what?
Peanut butter.
What?
What?
I don't like peanut butter cookies.
like
I
peanut
can eat
butter.
peanut butter straight out of the jar. But I don't know why I cannot eat. I just barely started eating Snickers.
I'm
I love
wounded.
I don't know what that deal is. I couldn't take the chocolate and the peanut combination together. And I love food. I went to cooking school for a year. Love food. There's no excuse. But I can't eat the peanut butter cookies.
I'm wounded, like in my soul. Like peanut butter is one of my favorite things, like ever.
Same. Oatmeal raisin are the devil. Ugh.
I love them.
Retweet.
Well, I know what you're getting for Christmas.
Oh, no.
And I can't wait to send you peanut butter cookies.
We have a YouTube comment, and I agree. Hashtag Team Chocolate Chip.
Well,
Yes.
she would. She would. That's another one of my friends.
I love this. We're getting into like the deep questions of who we are as people, as opposed to just like authorship. And I have a couple other comments. Raul Martinez Jr. said, "Yes, I am not your perfect Mexican daughter. It's an excellent novel," which is really great. And I don't think I have any other comments with questions in the chat. But if you are on Facebook or YouTube and you'd like to ask a question, as you can see, we're having fun. These conversations are starting. So go ahead and drop one. But I did want to ask from the panel-based questions is, what do you see for your future pertaining to writing or otherwise? Like, do you see, I know, Cody, you got that book 3. It's like all covers amazing, if that's going to come soon. Gume, working from home. Do you have any other like professional things going on, other written things? Nely, DC, what's happening? What's happening in your lives that are being for the future, either short term or long term?
So for the short term, I'm experimenting with post-apocalyptic novels. So I got this crazy idea, obviously pandemic. So I'm starting a novella for a end of the world kind of time. So I'm playing with that. So I'm having a lot of fun creating crazy witch with a necromancer cat. Let me just put it this way. So I'll give you a little bit madness in that world coming up and some crazy demons. So yeah, hopefully we'll have that series coming out next year.
Very nice. And anybody else?
I have like 4 works in progress that have not seen the light of day in about 6 months. I'm currently going through the first grade again. From 8 in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, sitting next to my 6-year-old who's trying to not die of boredom and counting apples. So my life right now is flat. There's nothing going on except marketing.
And Gume and Cody, did you have any plans for the future?
Gume, you want to go first?
Okay. I can't really talk about my stuff because like where they're at in the process. Like I've completed a couple things, and so I'm just like not able to. Like they're in the works right now, and so I'm working with some people on them. So that's as much as I can say at this point about them. But young adult novels, yes. Yeah.
So we got top secret stuff. That's always fun when it's like, oh, it's classified. Like we can't talk about that. Like, ooh, exciting.
Ooh, yeah.
So stay tuned.
Well then, because that's so enticing. After Gay Teens Guide 3, that's the end of the series. It's done. Moving on, and so that's going to be. It's with my editor right now, so it's going to be out soon. I have a contemporary YA novel, so it's not going to be fantasy. That is in my head that I'm going to start writing. I'm not going to tell you what it's about because that was so exciting what Gume did. Some top secret, and it can't be discussed.
Oh my gosh. That's great. See, we build off of each other. we help support. And I have a couple comments. I have Katelynn, I hope I said that properly, from YouTube saying, Nely, when are we going to publish the rest of the Creatura series in Romania?
Yeah,
What?
that's Bianca. That's Bianca. Katelynn is her last name. So my first book, Creatura, is actually published through a Romanian publisher. So also, I don't know when that's going to happen because they haven't contacted me. So who knows? I do have, I have translated the entire series into Spanish though, but I need a Spanish editor to go through it because I'm not very good with any of, I can speak Spanish. I was born in Mexico. I've lived all my life here in the US and I've studied all my life. So here in the US, but the actual writing it with the accents and stuff, no, that's something else. That's another totally different for me that I've yet to experiment with. And I tried editing, yeah, that didn't work out. I just made it worse. So who knows? Maybe in the future we'll do the Spanish, but as far as the Romanian, I'm not sure.
Still good to see be perspective into like no update. You got to update the readers. And I did want to ask one of the final questions because I know we've got about 4 minutes left before 5, but I don't know how you guys are feeling. If you want to go a little bit over and answer some more questions, if there's audience interaction, if y'all would be willing to do that, or how are we feeling? We want to continue?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay. So I did want to ask for aspiring writers or authors, either for people who want to write something from your genre or just want to write in general. They have a story to tell. They have a certain thing they want to get out there. For prospective authors and aspiring writers, what advice would you give to them? Is there something that you wished you knew before starting this whole journey? Or if there's anything like you've learned along the way that's like, this is it, this is the secret, this is the key. What would you say to aspiring writers and authors who want to become a writer and an author?
I'll go. So I think the best advice I was given that I read and has been reinforced is start writing and don't edit while you write. And I know it goes contradicting to a lot of people, but put on your writer's hat. Have a blast, write this book, don't go back, don't read it, don't try to perfect it, just write the whole thing. And then when you're done, then go back and edit. Because one of the things I realized, and I have a lot of friends, is like I spend 3 months in chapter 1. I'm like, how about you move to chapter 2? Like, just let go of chapter 1. So don't try to edit while you write. Just literally sit down, have a blast with your story, become acquainted with it, go on a date with your story, and then go back.
That's one of my biggest problems, actually. And I did try to not edit, but I'm so obsessive over things that it didn't work for me. So you know what? I'll put it down. I'll go to sleep. The next day I'll read what I wrote. And then I'll be like, oh, I'm just going to start at the end now. So I skip through it. So I'll stop myself from doing it. I'll write bits and pieces and then put it back in a puzzle. So yeah.
I totally agree with that. I think that's such good advice. Get it on paper, because I've even found times where you can go back and if you sit there and just edit and pick apart what you've written, sometimes when you finish the book, you go back and realize, well, I actually don't need this chapter, and you spent all this time on it. And I think you're going to realize too that those first drafts, they're going to be pretty awful a lot of the times. But that's not a reflection on you. I think that's most authors. You just vomit it out, get it on paper, and then go back and edit it. Yeah. The second thing I've learned is find a group of people. I think a lot of writers tend to be kind of loners. I think being introverted is the more dominant feature in writers. But finding writers groups has been one of the greatest things. Find a group of writers, get in with them, critique each other, learn how to make each other better writers in that. And you also will get a support group for whenever things go good or whenever things go bad. There's a writers group here in Phoenix that is incredible. And they're like one of the reasons why I'm still going and still at it, and why I think that, my stuff is improving.
Very nice. Gume, did you have anything?
Yeah, I think both of those are really important. Like how you're saying, like the writing versus the editing. Like I think it takes like 2 brain functions. And so I don't think that it's like, because like you can sit and come up with whatever you're coming up with, but if you're writing a story, like a novel, that's going to take probably months, maybe years. It's going to take a longer set of time. So in all of those times that you're sitting down to write, you're going to be in a different mood. And so you're writing, like chapter 1 might have a totally different voice in chapter 2 versus 3, but you're just getting it out there so that when you edit, you can make it consistent. So it has one voice throughout the entire story, all the chapters. And also so that you're not like just obsessing over one little part that like I basically might just throw it out. And then like to go off what Cody said too, like having people that are going to be honest, you know, that you can go to, like other writers, and share it with them and to get feedback off of it, and just people that are going to be real with you, not that are just going to say, oh, this is great. It's like, okay, well, why? It's like, no, like I think we need to value more so people that tell us it's not good than people that tell us it's good. Like we just need people to be real with us. 'Cause I'm super thankful. I have like a group, like one of my group chats is just like a bunch of friends that are like best friends I met at a couple of years ago at a writer's retreat. And so it's like with them, like we'll share with each other and just be real. Like somebody goes and says to me, hey, I've been working on this. It's like, sorry, dude, this sucks. And it's like, but we need to hear that, not just to know that, you know, because like, well, how's it going to get better? You know, how are you going to make it something that doesn't suck? Like I remember just a couple of weeks ago, or just like last month, I wrote a poem. I was super proud of it. I was like, this kicks out. Like, this is a good poem. And then I shared it with one of my friends, and she's like, okay, the second two-thirds, first third, it sucks. The other parts of it, it's great, but this one, it like sucks, and you need to like scratch it. I was like, okay. But like I thought about it, it's like, no, it is. It's like it didn't make sense like with what I was doing with the rest of the poem. So, but we need that. We need that as not just to have something that's good, but to grow as writers, to grow as artists, to know what doesn't work. Because we're gonna, a lot of the time, we're gonna be very extreme with how we see our work. We're either gonna think it's like amazing or think it's completely terrible. And we just need that second opinion to be the balanced voice, because they have nothing to lose in that process. It's not their work they're critiquing, it's somebody else's, and to our own benefit. So
I also want to add that you want to write, you have to read. That's really important. You learn a lot. You know, I feel like I learned so much from reading other authors, like their how they develop a character, how they make the story flow better. You know, what kind of technique they use. Like, okay, I'm gonna give you an example of the technique. Like, you start the story and you finish it more or less the same way that you started it. That's like one thing. There's just like so many things that I don't know if you understand. Okay, if you've watched a movie, you know how it starts and you're like, what's happening? Like, what's happening? It goes straight into the action. And then at the end, you understand, it takes you through how they got there. And at the end, you see that thing like that again. So that's like one technique, right? That really captures an audience. And that's why they use it so much. So like you start to understand, oh, that's how they get their, you know, readers to keep reading, or that's how you make a story more interesting. So reading and learning from what you read is like super important.
I want to add one quick thing in too. So this is like such a fascinating topic to discuss with writers, is that when you first go into it, and I wonder if y'all were the same, I was like, oh, it's going to be like 80, 90% writing and then 10 to 20% marketing. But if you want to be a writer, yeah, it's 100% writing and it's 100% marketing. And it really is. You're going to be spending as much time marketing, or you should be, as you are writing. And marketing sucks. It sucks, but it's something that you have to do. And I think it's just the fact that you don't know what's going to work with marketing. That's what makes it so hard. There's not a magic pie that you can bake. You know, you're going to try a lot of things that don't work, but that doesn't mean you give up. You have to keep doing it. But then there are some parts of it though that are super fun, with like this, you know?
Yeah. I think what, at least for indies, I don't know if the same thing fits for traditional, is somehow we forget that this is a business. You know what I mean? You're an entrepreneur, you're a solopreneur, you're running a business. And if you're a brand new author and you're trying to run your business, and you have to look at it as a business, or else you're going to be frustrated and you're going to be doing all these things that I know a lot of people say, I just want to sit and write. I'm like, yeah, I want to sit and write. But then you have a journal. Like, you don't really have a book that's published that's going to get to your reader. So it is literally, remember that you have a business and you got to treat it and you give it the respect that a business has. And you put the time, because it's not going to happen by itself.
Right.
I love this. This went so in depth. Like we started from like, you know, just write, just do it. Just, you know, put it out there to it's okay to not be, you know, the best. And it's okay to build from like like Cody said, like you just kind of put it out there and it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be very shaky, but we build from that. And then Gume, where absolutely embrace the criticism, where we need to be able to put ourselves out there. You know, if you're going to put your finished product in front of a whole worldwide audience of readers, then before you get there, you should be able to give it to critiquers and readers to say, hey, work on this, edit this. And then the other aspects of like, you know, this is a 110% of you goes here and another. There's so many different realms and aspects of it. And author Ana A. Cavasso says, writing is not an easy task, and it's great to hear that we are on the right path in terms of taking a long time to perfect our craft. It definitely does take time for, you know, a work to manifest, but it definitely pays off, and we're able to be here and talk to each other and share our works, which is really fun. And I do have a question from Jude, which I'm interested to see how you all answer this, because I know how I would answer this, but Marvel or DC?
DC.
Did you say DC?
DC. Green Lantern.
We're best friends. Black Canary, Black Man, Superman, Flash, Green Arrow.
You know?
Yes.
I grew up on Super Friends, and I knew from the moment I saw that cartoon character in that blue and red suit that Superman was my boyfriend for eternity. So, but have you watched all the Marvel movies? So I'm torn. I'm torn because Superman, and then all of my Avengers over here. I can't pick. I'm sorry.
You're honest though.
I guess it would depend if we're talking movies like Nely or if we're talking the comic books. For the movies, you have to give it. Marvel makes better movies. That's kind of, they have mastered the art of making a comic book movie actually really exciting. So in terms of the comic books, it's hard to say.
You know what DC went really well with? Henry Cavill.
Don't even get me started. I will. Okay.
I was like, harem. DC's harem.
Oh my god. Y'all are friends with Margie, right?
Yes.
Oh my god, her Henry Cavill obsession. If you want to see Henry Cavill, just friend her and you will see a million pictures. Do you know I've never read a comic book in my life? And so that's why this is a really hard question. But I grew up with Super Friends. I'm that same way. But I would have to probably pick Marvel just because I think the powers to me are more fun for me. I don't know. Now I'm going away.
No, on your ball, on your exercise.
Oh my god! Listen,
Bounce away.
So I went to one of those Comic Con thing. Well, not a Comic Con. What is it? Well, I did go to one Comic Con, but that's a different story. So I went to this one in Austin. What is it called? It's that convention where like there's actors and stuff.
South by Southwest, or a different one?
No, a different one. This is like a comic.
Is it a Comic-Con?
It's like a Comic-Con. I can't remember. I guess it's a Comic-Con. I don't know. Anyway, so I think it was at that one. Okay, you know what? I don't know. But I met Stan Lee. I met Stan Lee, and I was so excited. And then I probably sounded like an idiot, but I was like, oh my God, thank you for creating all of my boyfriends. And he thought that was hilarious. He's like, oh, okay. Sit down, lady. No, but I got his autograph, and I couldn't get his picture because I was late for that. But I was so excited to meet him because he's like one of my, I don't know. He was one of my, like, how do you create so many characters? Like so many interesting characters. And I guess that's one of the people that I looked up to as a kid and now as my inner child still looks up to him.
Very nice, very nice. And I've always thought that this is an interesting thing, like when, you know, writers and just creators in general get into like their things that they love and their things that interest them. Like I know DC was one of the biggest proponents in like myself getting started writing. Just I've always been obsessed with superheroes and especially heroes, you know, like Batman and Green Arrow and stuff where they're just like you, they're just like me, they're human beings. And like, yeah, you know, they're billionaires, but like that helps. But like they're out here like, you know, doing everything that they can, you know, stopping bad guys, saving the day. And I know how you feel. I'm a humongous, absolute mega fan of My Hero Academia, and I got to meet the voice actor for Todoroki last year at Fan Expo Anime Fiesta in McAllen. And I went up to him and I was like, oh my god, you know, sign my shirt. And I was like, no, thank you for being you. You bring such life to this character. And he was like, oh my yeah, you know, thank you for being a fan. And I walked away and just like cried. And my brother was like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, he's so like this is a fun question to see. Like we create things, we create worlds, we create characters, but we got our own, you know, things that we love and things that we love to talk about. Yeah. But I did have another question where this one is a bit more into you, like as a person, I suppose. It's kind of fun, and I hope that the answers are varying and interesting. But if I were to just like run into you on the street, like I were to just meet you and be, oh my gosh, hi, how have you been? What are 3 things that I would never find you without? And this can be like in pandemic, maybe you never without your hand sanitizer, you know, you should always have your mask, or, you know, a pre-pandemic of what's 3 things that I would never, ever find you without.
Pre-pandemic would be my phone, some perfume, because I am a total perfume addict, and my coffee, which I've been sipping on the entire time. That's 3.
Very nice. Anybody else, if you want to give it a try? Anything, literally a keychain. You could say like my notebook, my pen.
So
I would have. Go ahead.
Well, I think for me, definitely my phone. I have a literally paper organizer that my life revolves around. And usually you will find me with a book. Whatever place I'm in, there's always going to be a book with me, like actual hard copy book that I'm carrying.
Very nice.
And I think it would, of course, be a phone. The second thing is you will almost never see me without a hat, because this is what happens whenever there's no hat. Oh, and then that's why. And then the third thing, I will always have Thai food.
Like today.
With Thai food.
Very nice. And Gume, do you have anything?
I mean, like I'd have my phone. I'm the kind of person I hate having anything on me because I will forget it. I will leave it wherever I'm at and then never see it again. So like even my key ring is just my front door key and my car key. It's like that's all I have on my keychain. So that, my phone, my wallet. It's like the 3-pocket hat. I know it's like a guy thing. It's like your left pocket's your keys, your right is your phone, and then you your butt for your wallet. Make sure 1, 2, 3, you have all your stuff and you're good and you go. It's like that's. Yeah, because I'm gonna like if I took a book like you know or a hat, if I had my cap on, I'd just set it down somewhere and I would never see it again.
Wow.
So
I'm like Gume. I went to New York whenever I was a teenager, and my mom was like, "If you carry your wallet in your back pocket, it will get stolen." And because of that, I carry my wallet in my front pocket to this day. But other than that, same.
So I lived in New York City, and I actually never saw anybody get their wallet stolen from their back pocket ever. Like,
no,
I've never seen
ever.
It would be awesome to see, but maybe I was in the wrong part. I'm like, that's just never happened. Like, it's just.
I think it's just all the stories you hear.
It must be because I'm like, yeah, I never saw that.
Too tight.
I'm like, oh my god, I've never heard of that, like the 1, 2, 3. And like I always have like a backpack on me because I always have like my wallet or like keys or like a book or like something like that. And like Cody, absolutely 100%, I always have a hat. Like my friends already know me as like, if I show up somewhere, they're like, where's your hat? Like I always have a different cap, and they're always like merchandise themed with like the flash symbol or like something else. Like, but I totally understand. And I guess it's already going to be 5:15, so maybe one last question for you all would be, do you have any like interesting or maybe like close to your heart stories, or like you learned something from it, or like you like to look back on it, stories in your career as an author? This could be at an event, like maybe you met a reader or had an interaction, or during the writing process, like you had a realization, you made a connection. When you published it, that first time that you saw the book, any sort of close to your heart stories that you think of, reflect on, that happened in your career as an author.
I'll tell you my biggest story, and you all can laugh. It's okay. So I went to the Texas Library Association conference last year, and it was in Austin. It was huge, and literally, I tend to sign up for things and I ask a lot of questions like, yeah, this will be great. I showed up for setup day, and I'm looking across the entire conference room, and I'm looking literally at Scholastics, and they had this entire banner. There's staying from the ceilings. We got models coming, all sorts of things that you can possibly imagine. And I'm literally having a panic attack. Like, I'm stressing out. I'm looking at my booth, and it's just me and this thing, and I'm panicking. And I pick up the phone and I call my brother, who's like my dream team, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm here, and this thing, and these people, and I don't know what to do, and I'm such a small fish in this pond, and I'm freaking out. And he just literally said, he's like, yeah, but you're in the pond. And I was like, oh, okay. And it completely changed my perspective the entire weekend there, to realize it doesn't matter how big or small, how many books you have, how many things you have, how big your display is. We're all in the pond. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter the size. It truly changed the way I saw it. It's like, I'm sitting in a room with all of my heroes and all of these publishers. I'm still in the room. So it completely took the perspective. It took the pressure away. And I actually enjoyed the rest of the weekend. I met some incredible people. But that first moment in that room, surrounded by all these big publishers, I literally said, I'm in the wrong place and I don't know what I'm doing. And every time I do something new, every time I go to a new place, I literally remind myself, like, you're in the pond. It's okay. You can be little. You're in the pond.
I love that. I love that so much. Anybody else with something to share?
Okay, this is about reviews. So the first time that I published my book, because I self-published it, but then I took it off, and then off publishing, and I got it published by a middle grade publisher. A medium-sized publishing house. But the first time I published my book, it was a bad draft, basically. I didn't know anything about editing, whatever. So got it edited, published it again, and I got a bad review. As an author, at the beginning, you don't know that. You don't know about, you're like, oh, reviews, great. And then you get like a 2-star review or a 1-star, it's telling you like all this stuff. And everybody else had liked it, but there was that one review. And I was like, oh, I felt horrible. I mean, that's where you learn how to grow a thick skin, right? But I wasn't there yet. I was not novice. And so I'm super upset and depressed because I got this one review. And my brother tells me, my brother has never read my books, just so you know. And then he is like, well, what's wrong? I'm like, well, this one person, she rated me really low and like a 1-star or something. And she didn't like the book. And I was like, I'm just not going to write anymore. He was like, well, not everybody likes chocolate. And that one thing stuck with me forever. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, who cares? I love chocolate and they can be wrong. It's fine. So ever since then, I kind of stick to the 3-star reviews and up, because I found that the 3 stars review offer a lot of good criticism. So that stuck with me. Not everybody likes chocolate.
Very nice. Very nice.
I had, so being an LGBT author, whenever I do events, one of the things that's really nice is that, a lot of times, whenever readers come up and you start talking about books, but I ended up getting a lot of stories. Like I get teenagers coming up to me and sharing their stories that they have or they're going through. And so I have had such the range of stories. And it's been kind of weird because I've had some people say like, are your books really relevant? Because everyone accepts gays now, LGBT is all accepted. And I'm like, well, and I actually had, I'm like, is that that doesn't seem right. Like, I still feel like there's a lot of both sides. And of course, like, I think the perfect world would be if my books, just an LGBT book itself might feel irrelevant because they're all just books. But I don't think that we're quite there. And I have had on one side, on the wonderful end of the spectrum, I've had teenagers come up and they've just come out, and them and their brothers and sisters and their parents and their grandparents are all there, and they're all wearing like pride shirts, and they're all carrying little flags in support of that person, which is like, oh God, it just makes you want to cry. But then on the other hand, there was in Austin at an event, there was a girl that came up with her mother, and I was doing an event there with Jen Mann, who's a great author, and the teenager was like rude to me and just went next to Jen and talked to her and bought her books. And then she left with her mom. And I was like, well, like, there were times, because my book has gay in the title, sometimes you get people who are off put, some people roll their eyes or they may joke about it or whatever. And that's fine. You know, it's going to happen. So that's kind of what I just brushed it off as. But then like 20 minutes later, she comes running up to me and she looks around and she's without her mom. And she was like, I'm so sorry that I did that. I'm bisexual. My mom doesn't know. And if she found out, she would kick me out of the house. So I can't tell her, but I just wanted to tell you that, I want to apologize for that and how I acted. And then she left. And it was so heartbreaking and touching. And I think it's that lesson about, judging people. But that's kind of one of the reasons that I write, is because there's people like that out there who need something they can relate to. So it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Gume, do you have a story?
Not necessarily like a story, but I think something I've learned is learning how to be inclusive, because I feel not just as writers, yes, but the reading community can be very exclusive, where it's like, oh, they don't know how to read, or they don't read. And so it's like they brush off a lot of people, or even within it, like the people that read big novels, they don't take graphic novels seriously, or they don't take comic books seriously, or they don't take certain genres seriously. And it's just learning to not think that way, and it being inclusive, like letting everybody come and have access to your book, especially kids that don't normally read. Like I've done a bunch of school visits, and it's always interesting because you can see the kid, like when like a lot of the school visits I've done, they'll normally have it to where they'll have the teachers pick whichever, like their star readers, or they're like, the ones who like writing, and you'll do a special workshop with them. But then later on in the day, you'll go around to just classes, and so it'll be a mix of kids in regular classes, pre-AP, AP, CP, all the different like levels. And so you're gonna have kids in there who don't even know why they're there in this class that day, because they just don't care. But still being able to reach them as a writer, and having an open door to them. And because like I remember going in those classes, and they're just like sitting there like, okay, we're just gonna sit through this because we're supposed to, and they just don't say anything. But like being able to open them up to the idea of reading, maybe not your book, because maybe your book, that's why they don't like to read, because they're only exposed to your book. But opening them up to some other form of some other genre, something that they will read. Because ultimately I think it's that learning to be inclusive as writers and as a reading community.
I love it. Different types, of like stories and different things that we've learned, because like we're all, we all come from different places. We may, we're all authors, we're all writers. Everyone here has the certain genre that they reach, but like we all have something different to share, and we can all learn from each other, which is really, really amazing. And I do have a comment from Ana Cavasso saying, thank you for sharing with us. Great panel. Thank you for joining, Ana, and everyone watching. And this was awesome. There were really, really good conversation. We really got into it, like in certain questions, and it was really nice to hear all about all your different stories, all your different insights. And I would just like to thank everybody who tuned in, everybody who commented. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for interacting. Thank you to every single author here for just sharing your talent. First and foremost, for just like being brave enough to, become an author, take those steps, and all that's all led up to this moment in time right now, where we can all support each other, share our stories, and just have fun and talk and have good conversations. And so to wrap up, I just wanted to have each one of you in order on screen. So DC, Nely, Cody, and Gume, just really quickly say who you are one last time for a final sign off. tell us your book titles and where we can find you, where your books are available, any other social media links, just as a real quick sign off. So that way the people know if they want more, if they want to see more, find out more, read, they know where to go from here.
Miss Katelynn, so much for letting us be here. Thank you for having an incredible panel and actually for putting this entire vision together. You're so inspiring. So I'm DC Gomez. I am the writer of the Intern Diaries, and the book is Judgment Day. If you want to pick it up, it's the last one in the series. Books are available on Amazon, and you can find me on Facebook. You can look for dcgomez.author, and you can also find me on my website, which is www.dcgomez-author.com.
Very nice. And Nely?
So I am Nely Cab. Thank you very much, Katelynn, for putting all of this together. And you did an excellent, wonderful job. And I can't wait to tune into the rest of the authors in October that you've lined up. So my book series is called the Creatura series. This is the first book. You can find me at, and I'm raising it so you can see them. You can find at www.nellycab.com. If you want to learn more, a little bit more about it, there is also a book trailer on there and a Barbie skit that I made a long time ago that I think you will enjoy. And that's it. Thank you very much for tuning in, everyone, and for your questions and your comments, and that really means a lot to us.
Very nice. And I know, Gume, I think you disconnected, but I'm glad that you came back, and I'm glad that we had here. Oh no!
Oh,
okay,
no.
I'll keep on the lookout. When he shows up, I can pull him up. But Cody,
Okay.
if you want to give your final sign off.
Yeah. So again, Cody Wagner, author of The Gay Teen's Guide to Defeating a Siren series. Book 3 will be out soon. God, I can never do this right. There. And you can find me on www.wagner-writer.com. I have a fun, completely outdated blog on there. You can also find me on Instagram and just search for wagner.writer, and I have all my wackiness on there.
Very nice. And I'm waiting for Gume to come back, but if he does not, then Gume Laurel III, he has his books Hunting for Stars and Lovers in Hindsight. Those are just two of his titles. He is on Facebook and he is on Twitter and Instagram. He does, as I mentioned before, he had done a live stream poetry reading. That was really fun. He has really, really great stories, really, really great messages to share. And he's originally from the RGV and now in San Antonio. So he's definitely someone to check out and learn more about later on. And I'm looking through the last of the comments, and I have Patty York Raymond, author, saying, I'm in awe of you all. Hope we get to meet at an event. I hope so too. We're able to meet and just be able to see each other again and, make those connections.
You're in charge of letting us all know when they're coming up, because this one always misses them.
Definitely. I know I'll be posting more, but I know Patty will be with us on a panel next week, if I'm not mistaken, on October 10th. So that's something to look forward to as well. And Raul Martinez says, thank you, everyone. And Natividad Carrillo says, loved it. So thank you again so very much for joining. Thank you for taking the time to come and speak and have these conversations. And as for the right crowd, this was only the beginning. This was the very first day. We had 2 panels, including this one. They were the debut panels. And I have to say, this was really, really, really amazing of just having this insight, having these conversations. It was a lot of fun. And there will be much, much more to come. Tomorrow we have 2 panels scheduled. And as of right now, I have 15 panels lined up for the entire month, including these 2, with 47 authors and special guests. Wow. So it is a huge array. We're going to all sorts of different genres. We've got writers, we've got other different types of special guests, authors, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So these will be up on Facebook and YouTube and the webpage, authorkatelynrenteria.com/therightcrowd, to rewatch, share, show your friends, get more information. And thank you all so very much for joining. This was a really, really fun, amazing event. And I really hope that you viewers enjoyed. I can see the comments coming in where there's some more of, yay, wow, heart, celebrate. We've got a lot of good positivity going on in the comment section right now. So thank you all so very much. And I will see you next week or tomorrow, actually, for the next panels, and then next weekend, on and on and on. And this is definitely not the last you will see of these authors. We definitely will do more in the future, either in person or otherwise. So thank you.